Every great career starts the same way. Someone falls in love with a tool, spends years getting fluent in it before anyone else has even bothered to try. Van Gogh in his paintbrush, Agassi in his tennis racket, Tiger Woods at age 2 with a putter in his hands. Decades later, we see the result. We don't have a word for it, so we reach for the closest one we know. We call it talent, but that's not what it is. Today I want to make a case that talent might be one of the most misleading words in the English language. I think it's covering for something else. Something less mysterious, more boring, and a lot more available to all of us than we want to admit. I'm going to take you through two old tools my family put me in front of as a kid. A typewriter and a piano. Neither one new, neither one chosen by me. Then I want to talk about the rare moment when a whole generation gets handed something completely new. We're living in one of those moments right now. By the end of this video, I think you'll see why people who pick up the new tool early are about to look talented to everyone who didn't. Let me start with the typewriter. My grandmother had one in her house, the old kind. Ribbon, bell, the kind that punched a letter into the page so hard you could feel the impression on the back. She and my grandfather lived just down the street from us. She thought it was important enough to teach me how to type, so one day I went over to their house and found two typewriters set up on the dining room table side by side. One for her, one for me. It was intimidating. The first lesson was just about where to put my fingers. Left hand on ASDF, right hand on JKL semicolon. I didn't even know what a semicolon was. She didn't think she was setting me up to be a writer. To her, knowing how to type was just something a capable person did, like knowing how to make a bed. Around the same time, my parents put me on a piano bench. I was 6 years old. Weekly lessons, scales, arpeggios, chord inversions. My hands couldn't even reach a full octave yet. I remember noticing this strange little box on top of the piano. Dial on the front, blinking light. It took me weeks to figure out that was called a metronome. I didn't pick the piano. My parents picked it for me. And both of these instruments were old by the time I met them. The typewriter had been replaced by computers. The piano had been around for 300 years. Nobody was teaching me a new tool. They were teaching me the tool, the one their generation already knew was foundational. That was the gift, not the specific instrument, the principle underneath it. The principle that you don't get good at something by trying. You get good at something by sitting at the bench long enough that the bench stops being the hard part. By the time my grandmother was teaching me to type, the typewriter was on its way out. By the time my parents dropped me off at my first piano lesson, the piano had already been around for 3 centuries. The handoff was vertical, someone older showing someone younger a tool that had been around longer than either of them. But every once in a while, a generation gets handed something completely new, something nobody's parents had to teach them because nobody's parents had it. The printing press in the 1400s, the personal computer in the 1980s, the internet in the 1990s, the smartphone 19 years ago. The people who got fluent in those tools early didn't just learn a tool. They got to ride the wave of the tool getting more important every year they kept practicing. Think about that for a second. Their head start compounded twice, once for fluency and once for being early in a category that kept getting bigger. That's the part most people miss when they're trying to figure out who got lucky and who got skilled. They don't see the second compounding. They just see the results decades later and call it talent. AI is that tool right now. Not in 5 years, not eventually, right now. I want to be specific about what fluency in this looks like because the word AI is so big it kind of disappears. I'm not talking about asking ChatGPT to write your captions. I'm talking about something deeper. The person today who learns to write good prompts, who learns how to chain Claude and Notion and an AI image generator tool together. Someone who builds something small with it, ships it, watches what happens, and then builds something bigger. That person is doing exactly what my grandmother did at her typewriter. Except her typewriter was already old by the time she started practicing. These AI tools are brand new. The ones who picked them up early aren't going to be called early adopters in 20 years. They're going to be called talented. Most generations only get one of these. They get the slow burn fluency that comes from sitting at the bench, or if they're lucky, they get the wave of a brand new tool. Almost none of them get both at the same time. We get both, right now. You can sit at the AI bench and learn the timeless skill of paying attention, reading carefully, writing clearly, asking better questions, listening to what comes back. Those skills don't go out of style. They never have, they never will. But you can do that while also catching the wave of a tool the world is still figuring out, a tool that gets more important every week. The boring practice work still matters, more than ever. The people who pair real fluency with this new instrument are going to look in a few years like they invented something. They didn't. They just sat at the bench, while the bench was getting more valuable by the week. The kid at the typewriter, the kid at the piano, the kid prompting an AI tool, same posture, different machinery, same compounding. So if you've been waiting for permission to take this seriously, this is it. There's a bench open right now, the seat costs nothing, and the longer you sit at it, the more it'll start to look from the outside like talent. If this one hit, do me a favor, subscribe so you don't miss next week, because I'm about to show you exactly what I've been building at this new bench. Feel free to sign up for my weekly newsletter called Elliot's Keynotes. One issue every Sunday, no fluff. Links in the description. Thanks for hanging out today. I'll see you next week.